Did you know that 92% of people say they want to tell better stories, but only a small fraction actually do? Here's a surprising fact. Researchers found that the average person listens to or tells stories for about 65% of their daily conversations. Yet, most stories we hear are forgettable. Why? Because many storytellers don't know how to make their stories stick. What if you could turn an everyday moment into a story that feels like a masterpiece? What if you could make people hang on to every word and leave them thinking about your story long after it's finished? In this video, I'm going to share some strategies to help you do just that. You'll learn how to use tiny details to make even simple stories feel epic, how to use emotions to connect deeply with your audience, and how to make your characters unforgettable, even the side ones. And that's just the beginning. By the end, you'll have all the tools you need to transform any story into one that feels powerful and unforgettable. Ready to take your storytelling to the next level? Let's dive in. Chapter 1: The Art of Transformation. Turning mundane into magical. One of the biggest misconceptions in storytelling is that the plot needs to be grand or extravagant. But the truth is, you can turn even the simplest moment into a captivating story. Think about authors like J.K. Rowling, who turned an ordinary train ride into the spark for the world of Harry Potter. The magic lies not in the moment itself, but in how you choose to present it. To begin, focus on the tiny details that others might overlook. For example, if you're telling a story about waiting for a bus, don't just say, "I waited." Instead, describe the nervous tapping of your foot, the smell of fresh rain on the pavement, or the way the bus pulled up like a slow, rumbling giant. These sensory details make your story feel alive. A 2017 study from Princeton University found that when people hear detailed, descriptive stories, the listener's brain actually starts to mirror the storyteller's brain. This means that your audience is experiencing your story almost as if they were there. That's the power of detail. Next, use metaphor and analogy to add depth. Instead of saying, "I was scared," you could say, "My heart pounded like a drum in a quiet room." Suddenly, the emotion feels more real. George Orwell once said, "Good writing is like a window pane." In other words, your job as a storyteller is to give people a clear view into your world. Use these simple techniques, and watch your stories transform from everyday moments to something magical. Chapter 2: Emotion over Plot. Crafting heartfelt connections. Many beginner storytellers think it's all about the plot. But here's the secret: it's not. People don't remember every twist and turn of your story, but they do remember how your story made them feel. Studies show that stories with strong emotional appeal are 22 times more memorable than plain facts. To create emotional connections, focus on the feelings behind the events, not just the events themselves. If you're telling a story about losing your job, don't just recount the facts. Dive into how it felt in that moment. Did your stomach sink? Did you feel a lump in your throat? Give your audience a glimpse of your internal experience. Make your characters relatable. Research shows that people engage more deeply with characters who reflect their own emotions and struggles. You don't need a hero who's perfect. In fact, flawed characters are often the ones we connect with the most. Consider Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. He's a man of great principle, but also doubt and vulnerability, which makes him deeply relatable. Empathy is a storyteller's secret weapon. When your audience feels what your characters feel, they'll be hooked. To achieve this, use dialogue and internal monologue to give insight into your character's emotions. Don't just tell your audience what happened, show them how it felt. Chapter 3: The Unseen Hero. Building compelling supporting characters. It's easy to focus all your energy on the main character, but don't forget about the supporting cast. Great supporting characters can add layers to your story, making it richer and more engaging. Think of Samwise Gamgee in The Lord of the Rings. Without him, Frodo's journey wouldn't have felt as complete or emotionally resonant. Supporting characters don't have to be complex, but they should be memorable. Give them a distinct trait or quirk. Maybe they're always humming a tune or they wear mismatched socks. These little details make them stand out and stick in your audience's mind. Also, consider how your side characters reflect or challenge the protagonist. In many stories, the supporting characters act as mirrors, showing the main character their flaws or helping them grow. For example, in Harry Potter, Hermione and Ron balance Harry. Hermione's logic and Ron's loyalty often push Harry to make better decisions. Another trick is to give your side characters their own small arc. Even if they're not the focus, allowing them to grow or change throughout the story makes your world feel more real and lived in. In fact, research in cognitive psychology suggests that complex, multi-dimensional characters, even in minor roles, can make readers feel more invested in a story's outcome. Finally, don't underestimate the power of dialogue. Supporting characters often get the best lines. Use their dialogue to reveal their personality and perspective. This can also help break up the main narrative and add some lightness or tension where needed. A well-placed, witty remark or heartfelt statement can make your supporting characters the unsung heroes of your story. In conclusion, your supporting characters are the threads that hold the fabric of your story together. Treat them well, and they'll help turn your simple narrative into a masterpiece. Don't forget to subscribe for more tips like these. In the next section, we'll dive even deeper into how you can bring your stories to life. Chapter 4: Visual Poetry. Painting pictures with words. Great storytelling isn't just about what happens, it's about what people see when they listen to your story. Creating vivid imagery is one of the most powerful ways to pull your audience into your world. Research shows that when people hear a descriptive story, areas in their brain associated with visual processing light up. In other words, you're not just telling them something, you're making them see it. To start, focus on the senses. Don't just tell your audience what something looks like. What does it smell like? How does it feel? A simple sentence like, "The coffee shop was cozy," could become, "The air smelled of fresh coffee beans, and the chairs were soft with wear." These sensory details immerse your listener in the scene. Show, don't tell. Instead of saying, "She was nervous," say, "Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her shirt, and her foot tapped rhythmically against the floor." This allows the audience to feel the emotion without being told directly. It's subtle but much more powerful. In The Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway uses simple, direct language to create clear and compelling imagery. He describes the marlin's struggle with lines like, "The fish's jaws were working convulsively, and the strength of it was amazing." The picture is crystal clear in the reader's mind without needing flowery language. Another strategy is to use metaphors and similes. Comparisons can help your audience understand abstract concepts or unfamiliar emotions. Instead of saying, "The city was loud," you could say, "The city roared like an ocean storm, with waves of sound crashing all around." Suddenly, the noise isn't just noise, it's alive and overwhelming. Lastly, play with contrasts. Juxtaposing two different images can make your descriptions pop. For example, you could describe a character as laughing in the shadow of the crumbling building. The contrast between laughter and decay makes both elements more striking. When you combine these techniques, you're no longer just telling a story. You're painting a picture that your audience can step into and explore with all their senses. Chapter 5: The Rhythm of Storytelling. Pacing for impact. The rhythm of a story is like the beat of a song. It's what keeps your audience engaged. If your story moves too slowly, they'll lose interest. If it moves too fast, they won't have time to connect emotionally. Finding the right pace is key to making a simple story feel like a masterpiece. Start by thinking about tension and release. Good stories build tension, then give the audience a moment to breathe before building again. If you keep the tension too high for too long, it can be exhausting. If you don't build tension at all, it becomes boring. One study from Harvard suggests that suspense and tension activate the brain's dopamine system, which drives attention and keeps people hooked. A simple way to manage pacing is by alternating between action and reflection. Action scenes speed things up, while reflective moments slow things down. For example, after a character escapes a dangerous situation, give them a quiet moment to reflect on what just happened. This balance creates a natural rhythm that keeps your audience engaged. Another pacing trick is to vary your sentence lengths. Short sentences speed up the action, while longer sentences slow it down. For example, if you're writing a high-intensity scene, use short, punchy sentences. "He ran. His heart raced. The footsteps behind him grew louder." In a reflective scene, longer sentences give the audience time to breathe, he sat by the window, watching the raindrops slide down the glass, feeling the weight of the day settle on his shoulders. Don't forget to use pauses strategically. In film, silence can be just as powerful as sound. The same is true in storytelling. A pause before a big reveal creates suspense, making your audience hang on to every word. Even in writing, white space on the page can give your readers time to absorb key moments before moving on. Finally, think of pacing as a wave. Your story should rise and fall, with moments of high tension followed by moments of calm. This ebb and flow keeps your audience emotionally engaged, making the final climax that much more satisfying. If you enjoyed these storytelling strategies, make sure to subscribe for more tips on how to elevate your craft. Keep creating, keep telling your stories, and watch your simple ideas turn into masterpieces.